Previously on Battle Network 3. Symbolism! Fortunately, Lan and Hub are at the right place at the right time to jack into the system and see if they can't fix the hospital systems to stop those vines, save the tree, and prevent a power loss from killing Mamoru, who literally has his chest cut open and his heart exposed to the air on the operating table. Unfortunately, the hospital computer boards are segregated, so you'll need to jack into multiple locations to clear the system out. The pathways in the interim blocked by rooted trees, with their destruction only possible by the energy change Navi Customizer program given to us by Mr. Program on the server, which uses as ammunition fire elemental battle chips, exhausting the chip's program entirely to burn away the digiplants. Wait, I know how this goes. Though that requirement in and of itself is an irritation, as fire element battle chips, not exactly been the most plentiful thus far, and thus by us losing them to use it, it can prove itself to be really bad if the only fire chips you have are the rare ones you can get earlier, or the number trader exclusives like Salamander's Asterix chip. Kind of have to be careful when using it. And it's made worse by the thing being a Navi Customizer program, as then to use it, you have to interfere with whatever customization scheme you have going for you. Fortunately, the lack of fire elemental chips thing, if it comes up, is mediated by there being a few fire-type viruses in the system. But considering this is a wood element region, it is annoying they have to put in this fix for a problematic paradigm. Unfortunately, the first part of the server only lets them into the patient ward, not the main computer room, so Lan has to do something a bit foolish. The funny thing about that is he ends up falling from higher distances in Access and Stream. I'd say Beast as well, but he gets a jetpack in Beast. And really, for the reckless admonishments Lan's received from the fandom about this, well, his decision is actually logical and thought out. A fall from a second-story window won't kill or severely injure you if you fall the right way, just leave you with some bruises at worst. And I say that from experience, don't ask. And moreover, he's falling out the window into the water below, not much different than jumping off a diving board, with the only difficulty getting enough clearance to avoid the shallow water for a bad impact. So while it's obviously not something anyone should do if other options are available, Lan's ability to think quickly and rationally in a crisis in order to resolve it is showcased well here. We get a key to the basement from a nurse in the lobby, and go fix the system, and end up confronting Aneta and her delusions. No, you don't root out spies with Vine Whip, you gotta use flamethrowers. Team Fortress 2, duh. Wait, right, you weren't referring to me. I swear, I want to review the anime just so I can showcase how legitimately better a character Anime Aneta is in Access onwards. Lan tries to explain her attacks going to lead her to kill an innocent kid, but she's not listening, too obsessed with what she believes to be the greater good.
How can this be for the greater good? The greater good. Shut it!
And this is not helped by her Navi Plant Man, who has been teaching her the ways of Wily and indoctrinated her to his cause, which would be sad if we saw anything else of this character beyond this. As we don't, she and Plant Man are just in our way. Is she flirting with him? Sorry, but he's kind of taken. This leads to the last stretch of the chase, the final server we gotta cleanse being the operating rooms, where we finally corner Plant Man, who has obtained the Tetra Code for Wily already, revealing to us that 4 Tetra Codes are needed to unseal the great beast of the network, which will destroy it. Seems a bit early to wake up Gregor, or Falzer for that matter. Now, unfortunately, because I forgot to shift my style change out of Elect Bug style, I ended up fighting Plant Man with a severe handicap. But as by the midpoint in the game, I start playing Battle Network 3 with variants of the Battle Chip folder commonly known in the Battle Network community as Disco Inferno. I didn't have as much of an issue I could have due to the fire chips I have in there. But Plant Man isn't easy either, as he loves area of effect vines that'll cover the field, trap you, and then hit you multiple times in a row. Hell, those abilities are actually why Plant Man's Navi chip ends up being pretty damn useful. While it seems weak, that multi-hit used with any of the high attack power boosting chips is damn good at wiping out viruses. Hell, there's a high-tier ranked chip folder out there that's built solely around Plant Man's 5 Navi chips, which people only really use for competitions, as you can't put it together until after you've completed the game. Whoops. But with his defeat, he reminds us that the other 2 Tetracoats have already been taken, so there's only one left for them to take before the newest Doomsday plan can begin. But they can worry about that later, as Mamoru's still in danger, Mega Man draining his own power to get the system back to normal. The operation ends with a success even with these complications, meaning that yes, once he's out of recovery, Mamoru will be going home. But for saving the patients at the hospital, Mamoru included, a week later, Lan's going to be getting a public commendation for his heroism. Again, 3 previous World Calamity incidents he's been the central force in stopping. Why is he only now getting one for this? Which we go to Scilab to get. But I bring up saving the world 3 times already as suddenly this is the thing that makes Lan get a big head over this. It seems odd, especially as this leads to an encounter with Mr. Match, who is once more back to continue his thread as the most recurring non-main character. Hey now, he was helpful in Network Transmission and Battle Network 2, to an extent. Yeah, he's reformed and gotten a job at Scilab, supposedly. The suspicious interrogation held off by a sudden World 3 attack on the net. That is one massive distraction to help Match get in good with Lan and Mega Man by helping direct them to the cyber-terrorists. And after he asks for help installing new software across the network and points of interest, while playing Lan like a fiddle. Honestly, first time I played this, and remember, this was the first Battle Network game I played, I thought something was up with this. And sure enough, the programs Lan helped install were all designed to cause a mass viral outbreak of fire element viruses, setting the network on fire alongside causing real-world devices to overheat, explode, or burst into flames. And as all the ones Lan touched are in Scilab, it put his dad in danger as the heat escalates while they try to save the system. Lan only hears of this after everything has started, and it's all his fault. Match played him like a fool, exactly as planned. He then challenges Lan to put out all the fires Match started himself, and if he wins, he'll stop the blaze at Scilab, so it's up to us to use the energy change program again, this time sacrificing water element chips as fuel, to smother them all. Eventually we do, though save the beachnet areas for last, as Match's antics have opened the door to the deepest depths of the Undernet once again. Though this time it feels as if the pair are being watched. Regardless, we find Flame Man down here surrounded by bonfires, because of course, and engage him. But unlike with Plant Man where I was at a distinct disadvantage, at this point I was able to trade out Elect Bug style for Aqua Custom style, which makes this fight much easier. Flame Man's abilities are controlled by the 2 candles with him, one shielding him and on higher difficulties regenerating his health, and the other affecting free attacks. Fortunately, my use of the Disco Inferno strategy at this point in the game as well makes it really easy to swap out the normal fire chips as part of it for the water equivalent ones I've collected a bunch of. So Aqua Spreader is the name of the game here, and since it does 2x damage to the elemental weakness, I got half his health in one attack to then slice him to bits with the life sword. To be honest, when I recorded this, that's the fastest I've ever defeated Flame Man. I am not kidding on that. It usually takes me far longer than that. But it isn't Hub that deletes Match's 3rd Navi. Oh no. For this is when a familiar interloper, one we have not seen for some time, comes into play. The strongest solo net Navi, who wanders the Undernet as its specter of darkness, lusting for strength and power to absorb. The true base.exe. And he wasn't referring to Mega Man. He better not be. Hub won Death Battle's Mega Man Battle Royale. Yes, I saw that video. It was glorious. I'm kind of glad this review got delayed so I could include reference to it. Seriously, watch it. No, Base actually sensed Megaman and Land's power, making this the first time we've encountered Base outside of an end boss or secret boss battle, meaning this is the first canonical meeting of the two, and appropriately he mops the floor with us as we can't get past his life aura this time, unlike the last games where he appeared and we could. Seriously, as this is a story event battle, we're prevented from doing anything that would work, no matter what or how strong it is, until it appears Mega Man's going to be deleted and absorbed into Base's perfection. Who the hell are you? Oh right, you're one of those idiots. Okay, I said I'd get into Base's backstory in the .exe verse, and this, with a false-intentioned vengeance seeker, is as good a time as any. Now the problem with doing so is, the Battle Network video games are really bad at explaining Base's role in things, at least in the localized version of things. Battle Network 3 doing their best to do so, though from Battle Network 2's post-credits scene, it's clear they had an idea of what it was. Though the anime in its own way was not the most helpful on that. In that continuity, Base.exe is a reincarnation of pyromaniac.exe, a rampant, super powerful NetNavi that upon death splintered its data to create him, with Base eventually recovering his memories of that existence amidst its seemingly insatiable desire to absorb data. He was most prominently a character in the second half of the first series in their adaptation of the Gospel arc, was seen intermittently in Access to show he still existed, then played a slightly bigger role in Stream as a recurring enemy of Stream's major antagonist, Slur.exe, and the movie Program of Light and Darkness was involved solely to allow the film's eventual showcasing of Base cross Mega Man. But none of that appropriately applies to the game's canon. Instead, you need to look at something slightly closer to it. Namely, the megaman.exe manga. The manga, written by Ryotaka Misaki, as I have mentioned before, drew heavy inspiration primarily from the games and not the anime, so instead had Base be a major character of the story, basically from Volume 3 onwards to its conclusion at Volume 13. It being the sole entry in the entire Mega Man franchise and not the .exe verse that has most recognized Base's popularity among fans and a desire to see him spotlight alongside Mega Man and Proto Man. In it, during the Gospel adaptation, he actually steals Hub's style, and near the manga's conclusion, then takes into himself the power of Falzer to create his own interpretation of Mega Man's Falzer Beast form. Because for some reason the various Mega Man series keep trying to insist Mega Man's true Beast crosses with Gregor, despite Falzer Beast being a vastly superior form. But the real important part of all this was actually collected in Volume 6 of the manga, with it depicting an adaptation and more fleshed out, coherent version of Base's backstory that is all based on the plot of this game. In the .exe verse, Base was created by Dr. Cossack, yes, the one we've been encountering in this game. He was the prototype to true artificial sentience for NetNavis, far in advance of any other series, and thus under Cossack acted on his own will to improve the network and shore it up from viruses and anomalous data. The other scientists viewed him as a rampant existence even though Cossack trusted him implicitly, and thus could keep him in line, until the experimental system Alpha, which managed the greater network, began itself to malfunction. Base's actions were then mistaken to be the cause of these anomalies, and taking interpretation as seen from the anime in doing so with how he absorbed all data to make it go irregular, and in order to delete Base for the crime of damaging the system was put out, but never rescinded when the true threat and cause was revealed to in fact be Alpha, and Dr. Cossack arrested for allowing Base his autonomy and attempting to protect him from the unjust execution. Thus, those who still blamed him hunted him into the depths of the Undernet. As a result, Base grew a hatred of the humans who betrayed him, and even going so far as to, when the King of the Internet Serenade delivered a message to him, which contained all of Cossack's regrets and apologies, destroyed the message and the link it contained that would have returned him to his creator, instead insisting on growing stronger and stronger through any means thanks to the power of his unique Get Ability program that gave him the abilities of anything he copied or devoured. All so he would never be as weak, as vulnerable, as he was on the day where he lost everything. Base's story in the manga, and thus the games by which it is based on, is nothing but a tragedy. A truly unique being consumed by a need to be strong, simply to fill the void of what was torn out of him by betrayal the day he received his defining scar. And Battle Network 3, and by proxy the manga series, are the only time we really see you play out or have any impact or influence on the narrative. Past this in Battle Networks 4 through 6, he goes back to being the final secret boss of everything we must beat to get the game completion flag. And I think it's in part a consequence of how his story plays out in Battle Network 3, as his last semblance of connection to humanity is severed, so he is only left with the feral darkness and loathing that remains. And back to the actual game, here we have another of these idiots that has so turned him against humanity to become the threat they accused him of being, by further antagonizing the guy. Crap, this guy just used a dark chip. Well, not quite. Dark Aura at this point is a tactic used to get around Base's life aura in this game, and something we'll need to track down later. But in the interim, it's shown that Base actually is working with Wily due to them having mutual goals in destroying current society in the name of the revenge for the wrongs done against them. But it's kind of obvious in retrospect that Base doesn't know Wily is planning to reawaken Alpha, something Base blames just as much as humanity for causing him such suffering. But because of all of this, Lan and Megaman made it out of this alive. Just barely, as do the scientists at Scilab. But Lan is understandably racked with guilt over his role in causing this calamity, shutting down emotionally and left inconsolable by everyone. And no matter one's age, that is an appropriate response for almost killing one's father. He's so overwhelmed that when Chad comes by seeking assistance with the ongoing World 3 case and Tetracode mess, Lan straight up confesses his role, wanting to be taken in so he can pay for his crimes, and Chad refuses to, pretending he never heard him say those words and looking the other way. I like to think that after his screw-up last game and what Lan did in playing part to rescue his father, that he doesn't believe Lan has it in him to act with malicious intent. All part of the softening of his character as he's come to have value in others again. He suggests Lan go see Yuichiro and finally get all of this off his chest, and this is where we encounter Shawn, or Shun, from Battle Network 2. All here so we can suddenly retcon Battle Network 2's events to make it so he was manipulated into doing everything he did. And as I said when I reviewed Battle Network 2 back in 2017, it is not a serviceable excuse since he murdered his subordinates of his own free will and otherwise acted with autonomy in his management of Gospel. Wily in the .exe verse never comes off as a micromanager. Hell, we see that with Aneta in that, yeah, Wily may twist people into his service to agree with his views, but otherwise the malicious actions they commit are their own. And with Shawn, they keep trying to go out of their way to make excuses for it for reasons I really do not get. Now, why Gospel and their base clones would end up being needed in Wily's big plan is expanded upon later, and is a good addition explaining their creation, so the tying into it here is good to have. But if you've watched my show for any length of time, you know I'm someone who emphasizes holding someone accountable for the malicious actions they themselves commit or are born from their selfish egocentrism, and for them to recognize their failures and make efforts to correct them before any reconsideration of the character can take place. And I feel the insistence on placing the emphasis of them passing the buck on Shawn's responsibility for those sins, even though he is taking strides to make up for them, is not a good decision. And even as means of making amends, just going places and sharing knowledge he somehow has in World 3 suddenly, isn't a good mediation of that, as it's not real reform nor attempts at reparation to those he most wronged. Again, my point. He really is not. And really, you didn't even need him here to serve as a bad object lesson, since Lan was going to tell Yuichiro what happened anyways. And Lan already did all he could to fix it before someone paid the price for it and succeeded. But that doesn't deal with the guilt. Talking about it with someone you trust, and those harmed by that mistake, does and will. Shawn is not doing that. Lan is. So with all that cleared up, now we have our next task from the officials. Find a Navi in the internet that goes by the name S, in order to obtain a program from them that should hopefully freeze Alpha's program, so even if World 3 awakens it, it can be stopped before it can do any damage. Shawn and Proto-Man can't infiltrate the Undernet due to their notoriety as part of the officials, and Lan is legitimately the only person Chad trusts to do this. But the only way to get to S is to become a ranked member of the Undernet. To accomplish this, Chad also gives up the Black Mind Navi Customizer program that will disguise Megaman to look like an Undernet heel Navi to hide in their midst. Also, while we're here, Scilab has a new addition to our resources, the Virus Breeder. Beginning with this trip to the Undernet, we can now encounter in specific locations special viruses that can be recruited for use in special chips as summonable special minions, with them acting in a similar manner to Navi chips, which can then be strengthened on their own by feeding them bug frags in the breeder machines. In a way, you could see them as domesticated viruses, and I think I know where they got this idea. Once more in the .exe anime, members of the cast would use virus-themed battle chips as a common summonable assist program, though some of the normal battle chips that summon some type of weapon implement could also be used like this, such as the Cannon chips or the Dasher chip series that created flying platforms. And this additionally results in a post-game side quest to feed these things, and then track down the most powerful Omega variants of each virus that augment each summoning chip into its strongest variants. Personally, the most useful of the virus chips I found to be the Killer Eyes, which are some of the few electric element chips that do good damage on top of paralyzing an opponent, and the Scuttle chips that can fire energy beams. Though the downside of the virus chips is it flips through the strongest and weakest variants of the viruses, so it's kind of inefficient to feed the strongest one and make its attack uber powerful. We only have a 1 in 3 chance of getting that one. I instead try to balance the attack powers of the viruses, so while I'm not doing as heavy damage, my chance to roll a critical failure and lose my attack effectiveness entirely disappears. I kind of like that type of min-maxing. At this time, I also take a moment to do some side quests, such as clearing out more of the jobs board, which as I said is necessary to unlock some of the post-game stuff, and track down the Quiz family. From this game onwards, as I don't remember encountering them in Battle Numbers 1 and 2, you can find a group of NPCs that quiz you on an aspect of the game, and by winning you get some minor power-up items, such as HP memories, or at times even rare chips. It never hurts to track them down, and since all the questions are multiple choice, if you screw up, just take the quiz again and choose another answer to just bum rush the polls. Anyways, the entrance to the Undernet Square isn't far from where you fought Flame Man, with the heel navis informing us that the Internet's ranking challenge starts by standing before the idol in the center square. But that's where Whoopi Goldberg is usually set, where we are then besieged by other heel navi candidates in a survival of the fittest contest, which you need to find all around the Undernet. Defeat every opposing heel navi, and we'll be given the location of rank 10 to go and beat them down, which then follows through the same story for the rest of the ranked navis up until rank number 4. The locations of all the navis you gotta beat to get their ranks from them are in the Hades server, the hospital server that's accessed from the beach area, Undernet Area 3 where you fought Flame Man before, who is revealed to be just Beast Man again, as World 3 is trying to get the Forbidden Program as well so it can't be used against them, with him located over in the Principal's PC back at Land's school to take number 7, and ranks 4, 5, and 6 are the subordinates of the rank 3, who then calls you out in the Internet to deal with all of them at once. While 4 to 6 try to ambush us with the tried and true plan of rocks fall, everybody dies, we are reminded that thanks to the Internet, that friends who live far away are never far from contact, as Dex and Gutsman come in to save us. Kinda makes silly aspects of Battle Network 6 when one thinks too much on parts of that entry. But as soon as they leave, Mr. 3 comes himself in and reveals himself as Copyman, though with his ranking I was kind of expecting a Waxman to show up, who's taken Gutsman's form for their battle, and we kick his ass easily. Number 3 confirms the S we're looking for is the rank 1 of the Internet, and is super strong, directing us to the Net Battle PC at the studio, where if you're playing Battle Network 3 Blue, you battle Bowl Man, and if it's Battle Network 3 White, it's Mist Man, though neither of them are easy. Bowl Man especially, as his bowling pin missiles double as defensive objects, so you can't shoot anything through them, and he shoots a lot of them alongside setting pins to block up the board in hopes of getting a strike. Unfortunately for him, I'm in the market for strikes as I'm a sucker for modular weapon and form change gimmicks. What, I like the mecha designs from Gundam Seed, and I collect master-grade Gundam model kits. I'm actually happy I finally got some of these out of storage. As said before, Plant Man's Navi chip can be invaluable in dealing with Navis at this stage in the game, and can tie down his attacks long enough for the bowling alley to call his time. Though while Bowlman's amused by being beaten at his own game, part cheesy. He doesn't think a runt like Hub is ready to face S. Serenade, the king of the Undernet. And the odds of Serenade being one of the extra bosses we're going to conquer is... And of course, Serenade is in a secret section of the Undersquare, locked up so only someone with rank 2 can get to him for challenges, and with the additional requisite that they need to log into the square from the real world. Meaning we need to find the main server, which is hidden behind a boulder in the back of the Ura Inn's bathing area. Yeah, the inn owners are the creators and maintainers of the Undernet servers, or at least the Undersquare's server, as one of them originally was a Scilab scientist before retiring. And this gets better, as not only is the inn's name in Japanese an in-joke to them running the Undernet, called in Japan the Ura-net, Ura-in, get it? Well, the inn owners, yeah, they're busy running the place, so they instead handed over administrative duties to the Undernet to their son, Mamoru. Yes, the kid who we saved the life of earlier. The entire Undernet was designed as the hiding place for a safety system designed to counter Alpha, the rampant program that almost destroyed the network previously when it had admin duties over everything. The Undernet is beyond Alpha's ability to control by design. Thus, it is a safe place to both retreat to and keep said lockdown program safe. However, heel navies and other nefarious entities over time gravitated to it or were born from the amalgamation of redundant data within it because of its secret and sequestered nature and lack of oversight by the officials in Scilab. Only Serenade and his disciples in the ranking system holding any type of power to rein them in. And while Serenade has, for the longest time, thought to have been a solo Navi not requiring an operator, well, despite acting independently, he actually does. After all, operators always bear the emblems of their Navis. Yeah, this has been confirmed as canon by the series' main scenario writer Masakazu Iguchi. Mamoru's one of the strongest net battlers in the franchise. Hell, Serenade's the only other Navi the series confirmed to have fought the true base and won. Oh, and an additional fun fact I didn't know before doing research for this review. The reason Tamako set up shop in front of the inn, yeah, she actually helps run it as she's the younger sister of the owner, and thus by proxy, Mamoru's aunt. Sadly, as these details were confirmed long after the series had concluded, and because neither Mamoru nor Serenade were included in the anime to potentially broach the idea, this was not available for Ryo Takamisaki to propose that idea in the manga's adaptation of the series, where Serenade actually does play a rather significant role, teaching Lan and Hub how to master Hub style without going into Hub style, granting Chod and Protoman their Muramasa sword that allows them to enter Protoman's own exclusive style change, Muramasa style, and acts as both a character foil for Base and, well, one of Base's true friends at the end of the manga when he's recovered some semblance of his, for lack of a better term, humanity from his interactions with Hub. Though this is only made clear within Japanese reprints of the manga, which includes an epilogue chapter that features the two deciding to journey together through the unknowns of the intergalactic cyber world everyone first realized existed amidst the battle against the cyber beasts, which took Mega Man a year to return from as they got lost in it initially. Though, who knows what shenanigans those two would get up to with Base still after all of that being a complete and total soon tsundere. And thank you to the fans that translated that extra chapter. Viz never got a chance to import it as, well, Ryo Takamisaki produced that chapter in 2016. I'm not kidding on that. But back on point from this diversion to multimedia interpretations of major characters, Serenade seeking Mega Man's efforts in the prior trials and hearing that Alpha's trying to be awakened gives the pair a chance to earn the program Gigafreeze, as apparently Navis that aren't advanced enough can't handle it in the first place and will end up frozen themselves. Likely the processing needs just leaving their programs locked up or something. But due to Mega Man being one of the most advanced Navis around, he has no problems with it. And it's not a moment too soon, as World 3's used the Tetra codes to bash open the security locks and steal Alpha. This is a drill. There are many like it, but this one is mine. Drill Man escapes with Alpha by literally drilling a hole in cyberspace. Why didn't they just do that to begin with, to get to it and go around the tetracode issue entirely? With Lan and Mega Man having to follow them through the created gate into an entirely new section of the Undernet. Drill Man is of course waiting for us, as he wants revenge on us for deleting Bubble Man, as the two were apparently friends. Probably he's only won until the later side of the Battle Network anime when he ended up in a water Navi trio with Spout, aka Aquaman, and Iceman. Unfortunately, Drill Man is viciously hard. Like, Bull Man wasn't exactly a difficulty spike, but holy crap does Drill Man not want to stand still. He tears holes in the battle grid and disappears, only to throw dimensional drills out at us, with him deploying with them, so not only do we have to evade on ever-shrinking battleground, as he also destroys panels to limit our options to not get hit, we then can't even get a hit in on him unless you're attacking exactly within his line of attack, and you'll only succeed in damaging him if you use any weapon that does splash damage behind a shield like, say, the bubble shot part of the Aqua Element styles. Again, because of so many enemies fighting with some sort of defense in front of them, you can see this all as some form of training leading up to facing Drill Man. But most people are just not prepared for him to charge across the field like this. It's like Beastman and Desert Man were mashed up in the worst possible manner. This guy's pulling attacks I expect from Gurren Lagann and the Getter Robos. Because I use the Disco Inferno chip folder and Life Sword, I'm actually a bit better off than most on this, as the Spreader Advances still do work on the guy, as does Life Sword Slash, and the very brief times he can stand still in the grid, you can lock him down briefly with a Paralysis chip or Plant Man's Navi chip. But honestly, your best general bet to get one up on him is using things that'll straight up penetrate his drills. The sword battle chip called Slasher, that's a part of the Double Hero Program Advance, is brutal against him since Drill Man has to invade your side of the field eventually, and the Boomerang battle chips actually do work on the guy. Plus, if you manage to trigger a Boomerang as he's attacking the bottom row of panels, you actually manage to hit him twice with it in one go. And with him only having 600 health, he's not impossible, but his attack pattern and how you tackle his hitbox is not in any way easy to get used to with how fast and much he's charging out. Expect to take damage no matter what you do, but if you've got attack avoidance chips like Invisible, put him in your folder anytime you fight him or his higher tiered versions, as they are invaluable. But as an example of just how hard his base version is, I exhausted my entire chip folder trying to fight him, was down to just 20 HP before I finally killed him with a charge Aqua Shot. Again, this is why I love Aqua Custom Style. Bar Flashman, there is nothing it is not good against. Drillman dies and we're able to get Alpha back, but unfortunately, this is where Base comes in. Yeah, like I said, he's sided with Wily, and has his own plans for Alpha, so we've got no choice but to try Giga Freeze to stop everything before it starts. Only for Base to stop it entirely, as Base is another Navi advanced enough to be able to process the program. It's also entirely possible that the program was made for Base's use originally as a counter to Alpha going nuts, only for all that prior crap to go down as it did. So, yeah, it's been a bit of a day. We kicked a bunch of ass, only for us to then fail the most important goal we were charged with in preventing Alpha from being stolen. Meaning we've now just begun the countdown to cyberspace doomsday. Oh, so now it's Net Society. When you played part in creating it, you called it Our Society. So, as an idea of how crazy this year has been, I've actually, in my exhaustion, been picking up a lot of these Gundam models. It's like, it's something I've been avoiding doing for years, but it's like, I just generally love building these guys. Like, I actually picked up most of the Astrays, like Sengoku Astray from the Build Fighter series, found the premium Bandai Red Frame Astray. I'm actually really appreciating the shop Mandarake right now for a bunch of their premium Bandai stuff. Oh, this one I found at a Barnes & Noble, Quantao Full Saver. I've actually got the original Quantao release, and I'm planning to kit bash into something else. Oh, and can't forget about the Mini-Plus. Mini-Plus are fun. I actually found most of the Gao Gaigar stuff for pretty relatively cheaply for the rarity of some of these guys. You can't actually find the original Takara figures of these anymore, the ones that transform, so I'm actually appreciative of the mini-play line doing this for these figures, and hell, they even have some of the gimmick changes yet. Obviously, as I've shown in the boxes, I haven't built these guys yet, but you can see some of the new mini-plus stuff on the shelves, like Delta Galaxy Mega. I found that in another Barnes & Noble. I'm glad they released that in America. Or, actually, this one of Ixaid, this is a Kamen Rider Figure Rise line that they've been doing a lot of too. These are technically actually master grades in their complexity and quality. I mean, I've actually thought these are a bit better than the SH Figure Arts figures due to how all their complexity and gimmicks and posability are going around. Plus, you got the great little stands for these guys. It's like, I love model kits. I do. Yeah, so that's just a bonus little thing for people who actually stuck around for the video. I don't do those enough. Just fun little stingers, and probably going to put more of these on the shelf once I'm done writing stuff for next year, because I'm planning on spending most of the December when I'm completely useless out of exhaustion putting a bunch of these together. It's like, I'd like to have a complete display shelf because, like, spoilers for my plans for the future. Super Robot Wars V. This is translated. My roommate and I have played all the translated Super Robot Wars games to date this year. This is actually going to be quite fun for me to do personally. Like, you can have a great mix of giant robot series in here. I actually want to try talking about a bunch of giant robot series, considering I'm off of Tokusatsu and I'm kind of running out of things that I like to use as review topics when I actually have the time to put these videos together, considering so much this year, I've either gotten screwed over on doing stuff I want to do because of, like, real life issues. We had a bedbug infection earlier this year, so that screwed me out of 6 weeks of doing crap, or, like, overtime work. I've worked about a dozen weeks of overtime. Not like all the overtime collected, but like 12 weeks out of this year, I've had to work an overtime day due to, all just complications at my workplace. It's like, I like the extra money, but I'm so exhausted, and I want to actually get stuff out and done for you people. I'm honestly sorry I haven't been better about getting that stuff out, or really just mentioning it in what's going on update videos, because I kind of hate those, as it's been shown that people who watch my show, they don't actually watch those videos. I've actually gotten a bunch of questions about why I stopped doing Tokusatsu, even though I made a video about how I was getting death threats over ZO. Even though it turns out I actually predicted almost the entirety of ZO from the outset. It's like, how crazy is that? Yeah, this stinger is actually going really long, so I'm going to cut it here. I'll see you guys in the final Battle Network 3 video.